So I just pressed that button and I'm live, huh? Test 1, 2. Okay, that's probably good enough. Where was I? Okay, update. I am in the same spot as before. I can move. But I think it's better overall, because if I have a look at these, what did I decide? The player is going to take a grid as input. It's also going to get a reference to the game. I was thinking of doing a little subclasses from game, but we'll get there. And for the entities, I made subclassing work on the C++ side, but there are some bugs with it. Specifically, the Python type that gets returned is hard-coded. So if I put for example, if I derive a COS entity from a McRogueface entity, I will get back from McRogueface a plain entity type. So it strips out or loses the derived class and any derived properties that are on it. So to avoid that for now, I'm doing this little hack, which is basically where the only properties I think I need to make this game are the position on the grid, the draw position, and the sprite number. So I'm wrapping those as properties with a simple little setter and saving it as a ._entity on my game's entity base class. So when I implement player, it derives from that base entity class. If I use something like e.draw position, that's oh, thanks for emailing me. Better shut that off before I see a notification I don't want to. So this draw position, the game entities don't have that property, but it will reach into the McRogueface engine entity, and I'll fix that eventually. I spent too long planning it out, but it's too big of a change to dynamically store the type objects or cache the Python objects that come in. Whatever, it's just not important for this. So these are, I think I did a first pass, but I'm about ready to start testing the other entities. So I want to try to do that a little more live and take some notes on what doesn't work. So just run the game here and just get to some position and hit tilde to pull up the console, and I have crypt, that's going to be the game object, and crypt.player, that's the player's position. He's at 10.6, and the grid is surprising to me, like this repr doesn't show the grid size in like tile size, but XY width height, sure. Kind of, what is that? Like, why does the center there? Whatever, I don't remember what I was thinking back then. Okay, so if I say crypt.grid, that's the same grid object, but I should, well, let's see what entities are in there. Grid.entities. Okay, and there's that same thing. I also would like readline to work, but I didn't set that up, and I'm not going to do it now. So this is the entity inside of the player. So if I were to say crypt.player._entity, it's the same one. And what I would kind of like to do is just double check here. equality between them. False. Okay, so how about I can't use the arrow keys at all. Dang it. Is operator, because this is going to play into whether or not yeah. So if I can't do that, then I don't know how the heck I'm supposed to. If I do something like right, and this shouldn't be able to take any extra attributes because it's defined in C++. Okay, so I need some way to be able to remove something off of the grid. Like, for example, if I were to say crypt.player.die, this player entity can't be removed because it didn't find any entity on the grid that matched it because of this bug. So there's no comparison equals or is operator that works between entities, even ones that point to the same, effectively the same entity. And that's like an implementation detail. I think you can, like these entities that come from the game engine, it might have a different address as a Python object that refers to the same thing. What they have in common is that they have the same internal shared pointer to the entity's C++ data. And that is complicated and probably annoying, but the reason I did it that way is because I want every Python action to affect the object stored in C++, so that the Python interpreter isn't required at all to render any given frame. Python runs all the time whenever you do user input, but once you put in the rectangles, the text, the sprites, and their positions, every single frame is rendered with only C++. It's only callbacks and like behavior that's implemented in Python. And maybe that's overkill, but I just really wanted to be able to render like 40,000 things on the screen without worrying about the Python interpreter, global interpreter, locker, stuff like that. Okay, so let's try those other entities. So let's just try to implement them. So do I have to remember the name of the class I did? COA entities. Can't remember. COS_entities. Game imports as CE. Okay. So back in McRogueface, back in this prompt, I should be able to say something like CE. There's the module. So CE dot boulder entity. Pardon me. And let's have a look at that. XY and game. Okay, so I'm gonna make this b equals ce dot boulder entity, and that would be, where was the player at? 10.6. So let's go 12.6 and game equals crypt, which is the instance for the okay, was this g.entities? Int has no attribute entities. Okay, so I also need to give it, hold on, did I just read that entirely wrong? Oh no, I need to g.entities.append. Okay, xy game, that's not going to work. I need to add a grid argument to that. And what's the other one? Door equals ce dot x entity, and that's just going to redefine the class. Dang. help ce.exit entity XY, button X, button Y, and the game also needs a grid, I think. Button entity. So I think I missed. Yeah, I don't know. I just got to pick how to do it in a way that's not messy. Decide by style. So let's get out of this. And let's look at the entities. Do I need these called grid? You don't need a grid at all. It looks like the exit doesn't. Although they do need one because game equals game, but I think this entity requires G to be grid. So let's go to all of these. Even the player, I actually don't. Changing it. And we'll say game dot grid. I'll do this for just make all the entities match now. Why do I need the game and the grid separately? So I would say that I do need game and grid separately because the game is probably going to switch its grid when a different level is loaded. And this is just the initial grid that this entity needs to be put on. If you have the entities that moved from grid to grid, like I suspect the player might, because I can put all the power-ups, all the info about the player on the COS entity derived class player entity. That player will move from grid to grid as they change levels, but they'll stay in the same game. So moving an entity to a different grid is in C++, all you got to do is just assign them a different grid and make sure their coordinate is valid on that new grid, and it should remove them from the old one and add them to the new one. But just got to make sure all of that is working before I depend on it. That's the trouble of making your own engine. So same thing here. The exit gets a grid. And to make an exit, you assign a button that opens it. And I have a plan on making them respond to being stepped off of, which should finish my main logic there. Okay, so this says takes one positional argument, but two positional arguments. One keyword only argument. Oh, right, because the player, I changed the signature there, does not require a grid. Okay. So here we are. Let's take a look at that. Crypt.player. And we're at 7.7. Let's try to say b equals ce.boulder entity. And this just needs a X, a Y, and a game, which is going to be, let's say, 9.7 game equals crypt. Okay, so that spawned a boulder. Let's see if it worked. So, yeah, that boulder got added, and in fact, it looks like I need to double check how this is pulling these out, because if those entities are being pulled out of the probably good reason for boulders to hold on to the game. I want to ask the game about the other entities instead of asking the grid. Just another workaround for the bugs I'm finding. But so I can walk around. Let me go back here and we'll make an exit. So, by the way, where did I move the player to? So, the player's at 12.4. Let's make... oh, and this is probably going to crash, but it'll at least be interesting to see how. Let me say x equals ce dot exit entity, and that should be 14.4 and 12.6. So that's 2 to the left of me will be the door, and 2 below me will be the button to activate it. And what was the other thing? Game equals crypt. Because, okay, so this says creating a button needs to also have the game. So let's go do that. Oh, it actually made the door, which, yeah. Again, double check probably the same thing. Oh yeah, it is. That is a game engine entity, so I have some bugs to work around. But, wrong file. So let's go to the exit. I know you also needed, yeah, it's going to be game equals game. Do these need to hold on to the game? I'm going to guess yes. No, it's already done. It's done in the base class. So that should let the button instantiate. This is bump logic. So in the base class here, when we do try move, okay, so this iterates over the entities in the grid, which is not quite right. I think I need to, so this is self.game. We also need to make sure that the game has a list of entities. Which I'll just fudge it for now, but like if this had a base class of game, I would be able to guarantee it. But for now, this will be fine. Self.entities equals, and what I'll actually do is just make a player and just put them in the entity list. Maybe I'll I don't know. I'll have to do something with removing everything from the grid and adding them in the right draw order, but that's fine. And whoops. So let's say that should work fine. So every entity knows where to find the game, and the game knows where to find every entity. What do we need to test now? This is probably the part where I start. Oh, has no attribute entities. I spelled it wrong. Yikes. Entities. Crypt has no attribute entities. What? Did I not write the file? Yeah. Nope. Can I spell entities? Looks good to me. Oh, I know this problem. Okay, sorry for the flashing, just trying to. Okay, it has to exist before we can add it in there. It's easy to miss, I think, but this property doesn't exist before that list gets created. So I got to create it empty and then append to it, not... Oh, wait. I'm dumb. Okay, let's try that. Because the whole reason that error occurred at all is because it's trying to add itself to a list that wasn't made yet. So we can have a special one for player. They're worth having a special value. Okay, so this is the part where I start copy and pasting Python code to test the functions I'm working on. So go to console, and what I can add, that's going to be fun. Tmux, scroll up, and man, that is a lot of, oh, that's, yeah, a keyboard callable function caused an exception, so it did that nonsense. Let's get our boulder. I think that works. Okay, so McRogueface says, hope I didn't just drop that boulder on myself, but yeah, okay. Okay, still getting an entity. Maybe I gotta check in. Because try move now says, no, this still says iterable entities. That's, I solved the source situation but didn't implement it. So e in self.game.entities. Okay, so now that, let's put a boulder in there. I'm gonna push you. Yes, okay, boulder pushes. So there's a couple of things interplaying here. When you send keyboard input, it calls a function called tryMove. Like I need another boulder for this demo. Let me say console again. Okay, I moved it out of the way, I hope so. Okay, so now there's two boulders. So tryMove, let's say I'm here and I push the left or A key. It's gonna try to move into the spot. It's gonna find the boulder there, and it's gonna basically ask the boulder's bump function what to do. And if bump returns true, then the move can proceed. So what'll happen is the keyboard calls tryMove, intersecting the other entity's square causes bump to get called. The boulder calls, like during bump, calls tryMove on itself and looks for other boulders. So if we put these two boulders together, I can't push them because a boulder can't push another boulder. So the player tryMove finds a boulder, tries to bump it. The boulder's bump finds another boulder, and that one says false because it basically says you're a boulder, boulders can't push me, only players can. So the second boulder's bump function returns false, and then the first boulder says, okay, I can't move, so you can't move, and that returns false, and then the player's move fails. So that should be fun. Now let's see if I fix the button thing. So that'll be I can't remember. Okay, so that worked now. So let's see what I got here. So I have okay, so I've got a bug in, let's see, that's going to be a buttons bump function. But because the buttons bump function raised an exception. It couldn't complete the move anyway. So okay, and saying at least the exits bump function is not miscooperating. So yeah, it's oh, so it looks like it actually, what does this say? So it seems like it was actually trying to allow me to move, but the relative move has the old entity style in there. And for the boulder one, when it called unlock, it had the old entity style. So let's just exit this. I'm going to hold on to this. And it should all be in the entities actually. So let's go to everywhere it says E dot. Let's relative move. And unlock. And lock. Okay. Let's try it again. Here I am, I can move. Whoops. Let me pull up the console. And the cool thing is B can get reassigned to a new entity. It doesn't delete the old one because they are getting they're getting added into the games list whenever they get created, so there's still a reference to them. Not to mention that even if you lose your entity on the Python side, when it gets added to the grid, it's pulled into the engine as something that can be rendered. That's actually a bit of a glitch that can happen, but I'm glad I said that. I think I figured out how I'm going to fix the other thing now. Okay, let's get some exits. XY, XY. Okay, so now, okay, we still have the draw order issue, but so now pushing a boulder on there does open it, although based on draw order. Okay, and now I can also move through it, so. Okay, so I'm basically done with my entities. I need to implement the draw order thing now, which the way I'll do that, let me put a draw order. Let me put draw order on each entity, which I'll just define in the class. And then instead of appending to the, yeah, I'll just show it. This is going to be pretty quick. So where we got this jobs, just delete a line of text I wanted, yeah, to be able to copy. So let's do this in entities. Let's start in game. The number 3, great. Okay, so this will be a CUS entity. So when we add an entity, self.entities, I'm going to say self.entities.append entity, and then self.entities sort key equals lambda e dot draw order reverse equal true. So this will just be a list. I'll sort it, and after that what I should do is while I'll just add here, this is a hack workaround for grid.entities not iterable. I think it's like bug number 72 or something. So let's say while len self.grid.entities self.grid.entities.remove the first one, and for e in self.entities self.grid.entities.append e. So e dot entity. Okay, so this it's like first thing first, while there's entities on the grid, remove the first or 0th index. So what do we remove? The McRogue face entity that's, yes, add the McRogue face entity that's inside that. This should work fine. The thing I need to do now is in the base class of entity, this is where it says appends, let's say add entity to call that function. So every time you add an entity, take everything off the grid, sort them by their draw order, which I also need to add, and self.draw order equals 0. I don't know what that's going to be. Player is going to be probably like 10. It just means on top. Boulder. Players should never overlap with boulders, but I'll put 8 because I think enemies should be 9, but it doesn't matter if they're the same. Button, if you're on the ground, please have a draw order of 1, and exits. I kind of don't want boulders to overlap with it, but regardless, let me put 2 just so it's clear that it's on the ground. Okay, so did I get that right? Add entity, sort by e.draw order, and put everyone back. Let's see if it works. Oh, and also to make this faster, what I can do is we have player we can add this line self actually. And so boulder, exit creates its own button so that they're linked. And with that in mind, I should be able to say McRogue face run self.game.entities to add entity. Oh, yeah, I did that wrong. I double checked it, and I double checked it not good enough. So this is in entities, line 20. The game has add entity. Okay. G.entities.append. Don't need to do that. That's going to get done when it gets added now. So has no attribute draw order. Let's see. Is it because... A pickle. Okay. I don't know how to do that without overwriting it, so... Think. It's hacky, but I will set the draw order before initializing the parent. I hate special rules like that, but maybe I should just the real answer is to like define it in the class, like, but yeah, that's more correct for several reasons, but this way is already done. So can I walk on a button? No. Let me I could think about it, but yeah, I'm drawn on top of a button now. Nice. I'm drawn on top of an exit now. Okay, so let's check the to-do list, because that's... Okay, the end for a bit.